Hello and welcome to Digital Photography's I3 lecture series. We are thrilled to have photographer William Vázquez as tonight's guest speaker. Whether shooting a peanut farm in Haiti, driving through a raging Chicago winter, or racing across Ho Chi Minh on a tuk-tuk loaded with equipment, William adapts to whatever's thrown at him and strives to be open and present to capture the fleeting moments when people connect. The past 2 decades working for a range of clients such as Abbott, Pfizer, Direct Relief, Mastercard, Duracell, and Samsung have allowed him to shoot in 5 continents and photograph people from all walks of life. Scientists, farmers, business people, orphans, doctors, community activists, families, monks. William also shines in his leadership role in the photographic community, and in recent years has served as co-chairman of the New York chapter of American Photographic Artists. Are you currently serving?
No.
Okay, but as recent as 2011, maybe?
Yeah, just a few months actually ago, yeah.
Okay.
I overstayed my term.
Okay, well, to the benefit of everybody in the industry. Please help me welcome William Vázquez to our lecture series.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. So do I need the mic or anything like that? I'm good?
Yes, you're
Okay. I'm a loud New Yorker, so. Thank you for coming. I'm thrilled to be here today. It's always nice to sort of get a chance to talk about your work. It gets you to really think about what it is that you do. I think I was talking to my wife, who's a fine artist also, and she's, you know, one of the things we work, but we just sort of like, you know, just do it, and it just seems like you know, to the outside, there's like this huge process involved, but for us internally, it's usually, well, this is what I do, you know. So it's nice to sort of step back a little bit and talk a little bit about it. Well, a little bit about myself, just to sort of before we start looking at some pictures. I'm born and raised in New York City. My parents are Puerto Rican. They were born in Puerto Rico. They came here as children during the great Puerto Rican migration in the 1950s. So first generation New Yorker, I guess. You know, growing up here in New York, you know, my parents wanted me to be American, so they spoke to me in English, and I forgot my Spanish at one point or another, much to the chagrin of my mother, who realized at one point that she made a very serious mistake and not. So, but I've made up for that. Being multicultural is an advantage in what I do, and I embrace it. You know, this is great about New York. It's just one of those things you can just be anything you want and anyone you want. So I have some notes here, so I need to refer to them a little bit. So, you know, growing up here, I was I lived in my head quite a bit, because where I lived, I didn't have an opportunity to really go out very much. It was kind of dangerous growing up in New York. So, you know, I did a lot of like stamp collecting, you know, just, I know it's geeky, but, you know, it really showed me a lot of places. I mean, I lived like, I'm going to travel all these places. I mean, growing up, that was an impossibility. It was just, you know, it was just something that we didn't do. You know, I wasn't really exposed to art growing up. You know, that's something that just wasn't in my home. You know, we were very working class kind of folks. So, you know, when I was 15, I decided to I wanted to be more of an artist. You know, I had a lot of interests, and you know, I just because I didn't really know much about art, I really was curious. You know, I found things beautiful, and I was curious about, you know, what it meant to be an artist, or what that meant, you know, art in general. So I took a class, SVA, drawing class, and God, I was so awful. It was not funny, but it was a way to like get out of the house. And, you know, so of course, after I did that for a while, I kind of dropped it and just wandered around and took pictures. That was my thing. You know, and in those days, you know, I didn't really understand what it meant to be a photographer. It was more just sort of taking pictures and, you know, kind of that thing. So, I mean, I was very into it, but I didn't really know where it went, what it was going to take me. To me, photography was like taking pictures. So, you know, this is what photography meant to me. You know, that's me, by the way. I was a terrible model. That's the little karma, I think, on me, because now I have to deal with models. So, so growing up, that was my perception of what photography was. You know, bar mitzvahs, weddings, baptismals, you know, things like that. So it was sort of like, you know, the people do that for a living? It's like a respected form of art. What is that? So, luckily, I was very lucky. I met a photographer, and he introduced me, a professional photographer. He was a product photographer, and so we got to talking, and I was a hobbyist in photography, and of course I thought I knew everything, and I knew nothing. And the first job I did for him was deliver Christmas presents. Riding on a bicycle with bags, in the middle of winter practically. I was like, this is professional photography, But then, he took me under his wing and he really showed me a lot. I mean, he showed me what it was to be a professional. He showed me what it was to, have a craft in photography. And he encouraged me to go to school, because at that point, I was actually studying electrical engineering. Because that's what you do when you're, that is a profession. Photography is not a profession, at least in where I come from. So I decided that I wanted to be a photographer. So I dropped out of engineering school, much to the chagrin of my parents, who to this day still bring that up. Yes, exactly. So, and I went to Parsons School of Design. I'm sorry, it's not SVA, but anyway, and I got a scholarship, and that really taught me a lot about what it meant to be an artist, what it meant to be a photographer, what that means. And also, as part of my education, the photographer I was working with, as a present, he goes, you need to experience the world. He bought me a plane ticket to Paris. He goes, you just go. Went on my own, spent 3 weeks just wandering around Paris and Amsterdam and stuff like that. I didn't call my mother for like 10 days, and she was calling the State Department saying I was like kidnapped or something like that. But I saw the world. It was like amazing that you can just, this is what it is, and that was basically my path of really kind of like where I started, going. Look at that 80s look going on there, right? So, I went to Paris. I mean, I was only there for like, at one point after I started Parsons, I went for like the summer. And, you really got to really learn your craft and really understand what it meant to sort of like, doing things with a purpose, not just sort of recording things. Even though I'm still learning, I've been doing this for a long time, and every day I swear to God, there's something new that I'll like, that's the better way of doing it, or so you never stop learning. But right now I'm just going to discuss just maybe I think 10 years of my work a little bit, which is quite a vast thing, but it's a very particular part of what I've been doing. And I was talking to Jaime recently about the tipping point, when you realize like your career, how a choice you've made or something came up or a project happened, and how it set you on a course that this is where you want to be. It felt really good, and it combined a lot of things. So, for example, I was offered to go to Afghanistan. I had a client came to me and said, hey, we have this project and so travel, but you got to go to Afghanistan, which was at war at that point, in the war zone. And I, mulled it over, I considered it, and I talked to a lot of people, and they said, I said, you know what, I'm doing this. It's just no risk, no gain in anything you do, especially in what we do as individual artists or as a business people. Whatever it is you do, if you do no risk, you will never move forward. It's very difficult to go up to that next level. So I decided, you know what, I'm doing this. I went, and on many levels, it changed my perspective on photography. Because before I was doing very much kind of like, it was just very conventional type photography, executives, my approach was very conventional. I didn't really look at it in a very deep way. I was still looking at it from the perspective of it's a job, it's a work, Granted, I had a higher education at that point, but I still didn't really have that sort of understanding. And this is where this is where taking risk and changing things, changing your how you do things is where you go. So they tell me they want to document some things. They want to document these programs, and it's a corporation, a pharmaceutical company. They give money to an NGO in Afghanistan to train nurses. So they said, okay. Yeah. And I was thinking, they say documenting, but that's not what they want, They want, documenting is like people sitting in a room kind of thing, or something going on. And, I felt that they wanted something more. And, I was very much under the idea of like, just give them what they want, And then I realized that, this is discovering these kinds of things. So for example, this woman is at a clinic. she was waiting around to get served by the doctor, and I was standing around, sort of like I'm trying to interact with people too. And oh, just to preface this, growing up, I was very timid. So this kind of work, approaching people and interacting with people at this level, was quite a jump for me in a lot of ways. So we're sitting there, we're talking, and I'm using an interpreter because I don't speak Farsi, and she's there, and I'm like this, literally like an alien that just came off a spaceship, and came to take pictures. So I'm a man, I'm not supposed to see their face, but being that I'm a foreigner, I don't sort of qualify in that same vein as the men of Ganifin. So, and I also wanted to sort of show women in a different perspective, not just sort of pain and suffering that they go through on a regular basis, in Afghanistan, So, I mean, everybody has these inner beauties that I try to bring out. So in this moment, I don't know, I think I was asking the woman, she was talking to the woman about something. And I think she said, like, what she's talking about. She goes, oh, she was thanking her about giving her shampoo. She gave her some shampoo, and I was like, and I just made some, I don't know, some comment, interesting or whatever. She thought it was very funny. So I got her to smile at that moment, This was 4x5, so it was like, you got to read that moment. Black and white, which I still love. I don't do enough of anymore. So, and I try to bring that sort of thing into everything I do, not just into people. This was a palace that was sort of blown up in pieces in Afghanistan. And we're driving by, and I make them stop, and they don't want to let me out, and they're very protective of me. And so, no, we got to stop. And I did like a triptych because I couldn't move anywhere, so I literally had to do 3 shots. They wouldn't let me go anywhere. So one of the things I always do is just try to find different perspectives on, that people-to-people thing. One of the things I like about this is little charcoal on the eyes and the Snoopy pajamas, and then you have the woman in the burqa. It's such a contrast that it's like, it's just unnatural, it feels, and I just love the colors and the people, and you always try to find that emotional, and I think that is the biggest thing I always try to do, is to try to get an emotional sort of response from people on anything. Oh, and by the way, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them anytime. Just raise your hand. More than happy to answer as we go along. She was waiting. She was very motivated, and she wanted to study. She was 16, and I was there talking to her a little bit in my limited ways, and this is a typical kind of room in these places. They all want to learn. It's a school. There's no heat. It's basically like cloths over the windows and block the chill. And it was the middle of winter. But the amazing part, though, is just look at all the different expressions you have in this one picture. Some that are completely ignoring me, some that are looking at me like a laser beam, some of them are hiding from me. So it's just astounding, that, and I had to wait a little bit. First I walk into that room and there's a little bit of that sort of shock. Who's this guy? And then, I waited just enough so I can get that. So. The type of photography I do is, as much as it's serendipitous, it's kind of waiting for that moment. And if that moment's not happening, you sort of push for that moment,
How do you mean?
What do I do? A lot of times it's just standing there, believe it or not, and smiling at somebody or engaging them in some way. A lot of times I have very limited amounts of time to take a picture. I have come to the conclusion that you have about 15 minutes to photograph somebody, unless they're a professional model. And in those 15 minutes, if you can't get that picture, you're not getting that picture, period. And a lot of times I'll spend the 10 minutes talking to them, getting to know them a little bit, asking about their family, what they do. And as you'll see, the pictures goes on, you sort of get a little bit of that. Because in the end, I want them to sort of forget the moment that I'm actually coming to take their picture. And I want to it feels like I'm having a little exchange with them, Very much like kind of like a way a painter would approach things, I think, where they're very much, it comes out of their mind, but they're very much a part of what's on the canvas. So, and the way I use the camera is in that way. And this is the beginning. So things are a little more documentary in these pictures. So I was still trying to figure out where I wanted to go with it. This is I get a lot of comparisons between that very famous picture, McCurry. But what's amazing about when you go to these places, they're not used to being photographed. So, when you photograph somebody, everybody sort of straightens themselves out, and they put themselves in a place that they want to be photographed. this is a very honest sort of exchange. You know, it's quite amazing in a lot of ways. You know, in fact, they probably want to be photographed like this more than what we do to ourselves to be photographed. You know what I'm saying? So she was waiting there with her sister. Notice the little nail polish on the fingernails. Still girls, no matter what. Kids, you know, I hit or miss with me sometimes. Sometimes they love me. Sometimes I start making them cry. Sometimes I travel the world making children cry. Fortunately, this got a little more, the projector's not helping, but it's got a little more depth to it. So, I mean, you know, so like I said, my goal is when I do these things a lot of days, it's, yeah, I'm not a photojournalist. I'm not doing news. You know, I'm there with a very specific idea about what I want to sort of portray, you know. And that's one of the reasons that my clients tend to hire me, is because of my point of view, you know. You don't get hired to record things. You get hired to have a point of view, a perspective on things. And they want your perspective. So this is Vietnam. They were like avian flu. I tend to go to places sometimes that could be a little, you know, dicey in that sense. And they're sort of like looking at the maps of all the different farms. So I'm at a farm, and he's the farmer, and that's his wife. And he didn't want me to photograph her. Well, he was just, I don't know, just not being very nice to her. So I distracted him a little bit, because I know she wanted to be photographed. Even though I don't speak any Vietnamese or anything. You know, it's all body language and just sort of interacting with people and just, you're sort of predicting what they're going to do, you know. So these kids turned around and they was like, you know, doing something. I think I just said hello to them, and that was enough to get them to, you know, they found that very funny. It's tough with children sometimes. They get a little over enthusiastic, you know. I mean, they were literally pouring out the door and then like falling over each other, like literally like seconds after that picture. So this is a slightly different thing, you know. I tend to sort of like I said, we were talking a little bit before about eliciting a response. I was standing around for you, so I'm getting the total evil eye from these women. Because I was there photographing for a while, and I didn't have anybody to translate for me, so I couldn't communicate with them. And I tried to, you know, talk to them, and they were just, no. But I found that cool that they gave me a little bit. It wasn't like they gave me something. And plus the colors is just amazing. You know, this photography is as much being in the right place at the right time is as much as sort of planning to be in that right place at that right time. You know what I'm saying? Predicting how things will go. So it takes time to sort of get that sort of, predictions in your mind. You know what I'm saying? So like these kids, you know, I go there and there's like a nutritional program. And they were drinking this sort of soy milk with like peanuts and very heavy and warm. And it's about 105 degrees, actually. The ambient temperature was so hot. And every school I stopped at, they want to give me a cup. They will wait for me. So I'd have to share a cup with after like the third one. I was like, please, don't do it again. You know, and saying no is tough. I mean, you know, you really have to sort of get into people's culture a little bit when you're doing these things, you know? Because, you know, they see you as a total foreigner and they have their preconceived notions of who you are. And, you know, I want to at least give them the best part of that, not be the bad American, you know, the bad whatever, you know? So I think I got down to the level of them and, you know, just to sort of, to get them to, at their point of view, their perspective. Same thing, visiting families, you know. A lot of times I'll spend like a day doing something and visiting different families, and you're trying to find that perfect picture. I mean, I don't do like picture stories, because most of the way my photography gets used is it's one photo. So I'm looking for that perfect photo a lot of times. And a lot of times it's a hard way to work. You get discouraged, you get bummed out, you know, you get tired, because you spend the day and you're trying to, you find the perfect person, the perfect place, the perfect light, the perfect time, and you know, it's just not happening. It's just not happening. So sometimes it comes together, but I spend a lot of time where it's just not going to get together. This was a picture I wasn't even supposed to be doing. I was just hanging around waiting for a doctor to show up, and they were like washing babies in the hallway. I mean, how could you go wrong washing babies? You know, and they were just all so happy. There was so much happiness going on here that it was just amazing, you know. Unfortunately, the difficult sections, you know, dark hallways, backlit, they're challenging on a technical standpoint. But you know, I always want to try to connect with at least one person, so it doesn't, you know, so it doesn't feel like an impersonal picture. You know, it's always got to have a connection. Also Vietnam, drinking tea. I do a lot of tea drinking when I travel. You know, everybody offers you something to drink, and right away you have to drink some tea. You know, and this is his home, farmer. It's just nice how just people just are so relaxed. You know, you try to work on that. You know, this is China. These kids, they were tough. They were not doing anything for me. You know, I got the total stone face for a while. But you see, you know, you wait it out. You sort of move things in a direction that they might want to like see or change, you know. Plus there's so much texture here, you know. Any questions? Feel free to ask if anything comes up. And that's what I do. I travel the world worldwide, make babies cry. But look at that cry. That was a hearty cry. This is Cambodia. And you know, sometimes you just see these like, incredible vistas that you know you can't just. This is Ha Long Bay in Vietnam. Sometimes I get a day off. I get to do things. This is in Bolivia. I was there to photograph for a organization that does diabetes prevention. I still work for a company. And this is one of the things they do is their philanthropy and that kind of stuff. So. Just dancing. They were having like a whole event and they were doing some dancing. I got so sunburned that day. And you know, you always find these little moments of something going on. She wouldn't turn to her face. I couldn't see her. So I saw the back. I go, oh, that's beautiful. This is a blind woman from diabetes, her grandchildren. You know, one of the things I always try to sort of always like togetherness, family, happiness. No matter where you are in the world, there's always the people that are happy, even under dire circumstances, you know. And I always try to feel like I want people to, how they want to be portrayed, you know. I don't think really people want to be portrayed when they're in their weakest moments, you know. I mean, granted, there's a place for that, but not what I do. He was great. He's standing in the middle of this field. The light's terrible, in the middle of Bolivia, which is like high up, and it's like middle of the afternoon. You know, you got to work with what you got, you know. And I just found them as a couple just fascinating. I'm always trying to find covers. That's another thing. Covers for anything, publications I'm working on. So sometimes I'll do verticals. Popcorn seller. Yeah, the sun there is just intense and brutal. It's very like dry. This is in their homes. I spend a lot of times, people invite me to their homes. You know, I want to show a little bit of what how they live. It's very important, I think, you know, to show their people's sort of living circumstances at the same time a little bit. But, you know, always showing that there's a, you know, a little more than just sort of like, more than tragedy. This is the popcorn seller. I just like their room so much.
William, when you go on a job like this for an NGO, non-for-profit, how do you get a brief of what they expect from you, or how much research do you do? How do you prepare for that job?
You know, sometimes what happens with these things is that they'll give me you'll get like a place. We want to photograph these people, or we want to photograph this situation. And then I'll get some sort of a brief in the sense of like, we want to show positive outcomes, or we want to show this, or we want to show that, or we want to show process. But I don't usually get like specific kind of, we want this shot, that shot. Sometimes, in certain respects, but not, it doesn't happen very often. I'm pretty much left to my own devices when I do these things, you know, particularly. But the NGOs, you know, you got to do a little bit of both. You do the conceptual, creative stuff, and you also do the very documentary, because they want to show process, like for their websites or whatever it is. You know, they want to show what it is that they do. So you can't all just do pretty pictures. It's got to be pretty pictures with some substance to it too. So yeah, I mean, so yeah, sometimes I get briefs, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I get like really specific things. It just varies. NGOs, I usually don't get specific things. Yes?
Are you traveling by yourself, or do you have a question?
Oh yeah, what? Can you repeat the question, Larry? Hold on a second. We'll give you a mic.
I said, are you traveling by yourself, or are you traveling with assistants? What?
I work by myself generally on this kind of thing. Sometimes I'll hire local people to help, but you know, it's very sort of photojournalistic in its sort of approach. You know, very minimal. I have some lighting, but it's very minimal. It's just me. Usually, I'll have like somebody I connect with locally, like an NGO or a translator, or you know, fixer or a driver. But it's usually, or if I'm with an NGO, they'll travel with the people. But it's nobody's in control of anything. I do what I want, basically.
If you're working by yourself, you're lugging your equipment around. How many lenses do you bring out? I mean, that's a small room, I assume.
I try to only travel with 3 lenses, and they're zoom lenses, because it's just too heavy to carry too much stuff. It's a real hassle going through airports, and everything I take with me that I'm shooting with generally has to fit in a carry-on. So if the airlines lose it or whatever, I still do my job. I may not have any clothes to change into, but I'll have my cameras to take pictures with. So yeah, usually they're like, you know, 16-35, a 24-70, and like a 70-200. But I'm changing my gear a little bit now these days, because to even make it a little smaller, because I've been noticing, like when I'm trying to get in tight with people, that people change when you lift up this huge machine to your eye to photograph them. All of a sudden they, you know, it's funny. Sometimes there'll be a great moment going on, and I don't want to take a picture of it because I know I'm going to like, that moment it's going to stop. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to find a way to like, you know, so like I'll get smaller cameras sometimes, or even an iPhone. You'd be surprised, you know? iPhones are great for those kinds of things, you know, because it's just totally less obtrusive, you know? And you know, my whole point is it feels like you're having a conversation with this person, you know, or a moment. And the minute you put that big machine up, which is, you know, Canon 5D Mark III with the big lens, people just, you know, so they stop. So, you know, so I'm changing things up a little bit, yeah. This is Kosovo, neonatal clinic. I learned a lot about neonatal resuscitation on this trip. I can revive babies if I need to. I was practically certified because, you know, 4 days of hearing like lectures about it. And I was traveling with some doctors. There's always that formal portrait sometimes that actually works really well, you know? I'm not a big fan of it because it's usually really hard to make it work, you know, because it's like, but sometimes it all just comes together. You know, and people just, I mean, like, for example, like, I was in Philippines, and this is a sort of a departure. I met these Korean kids on this ferry boat going to, like, some island after the typhoon. They were studying English, and they were on vacation. Whatever. Anyway, so we're talking for a while, and one of them, oh, can we take your picture? Oh, yeah, sure. One of them puts the camera up, and there are like 6 of them. They all get into position. Like, a perfect picture, and they left a little space for me. You know, I couldn't even like do that if I wanted to, you know, purposefully, you know. So you know, there's just one of those things sometimes that I appreciate when it just comes together, you know. So this is a little sad story. I mean, just sort of going through these little babies and, you know, and trying to find things that are like, you know, the sort of emotional connection. They were twins, not doing well. This is one of those things you're driving in the car, and you tell the guy to stop. What is that? Oh, that's blah, blah, blah. No, what is that? And you explain, it's actually a memorial that these people were killed in this area. You know, and it was like amazing. Somebody went through a lot of work. They built the little bridge that come off the road onto this field, you know. I mean, you know, I think it's important when you travel is to have respect for people's history, you know, and people appreciate that, you know. So he was very dismissive about it, the driver, but but then when I got in the car, he was Mr. like sour grapes before, and now he's like my buddy for the whole time, you know. So it's amazing how little things, you know, really help, and not just taking pictures, but it's not just taking the pictures, what I do. It's getting to the place so you can take pictures. That's almost just as important as actually taking the picture. Because if you can't get to like that opportunity to stand and take that photograph, you don't have a photograph. So no matter how good you are as a photographer, if you can't do it, get to that point, then you're not doing your job. It's Romania. The kids have HIV, and 2 days I'm with them. I couldn't get them to give me the time of day. Of course, I'm leaving. Hey, how are you? You know, they're real happy, and they're like, you know, really frustrating, very frustrating. So now we're in Africa. So this is one of those places where it could be incredibly sad and incredibly joyful at the same time. In Africa, I can see how people fall in love with that place. It's just an amazing place. So this is for an NGO, complete for an NGO, no corporate client. So it's more about what they do in their process. So I'm photographing women's health, maternal health issues. This woman, I think she was sexually abused, and she was like basically incontinent. She would urinate on herself with no control. So it was an easy fix to surgeon to come and do this. And in Africa particularly, it's a huge problem. And a lot of women suffer to this, and they get ostracized, they get divorced, they get abandoned by their family. So she was there, and she was, you know, I mean, she was 12. So it's just, can you imagine? So of course, they just leave me in the room with her for a while by myself. And they're like out doing whatever the surgeons are doing. So I'm left to entertain her. So we're sitting for a while. But it's funny, as the time got closer to her surgery, you can tell she was getting more and more, you know, withdrawn and stuff. And I got this picture of her when she was sort of waiting for them to come in to start with the anesthesia. And it's a kitchen, by the way. This used to be a kitchen. Now is an operating. This is during the surgery. Just see, it's actually a little picture story right here. There's 3 photos. And the doctors always want to show me everything. And I'm like, no. Here, come look. No. So, I mean, I know their intentions are great, but no. I'm perfectly fine where I'm standing right here. But, you know, just trying to find that intensity, you know. And this is after recovery, and I was there for a while with her, photographing her. And you know, it's like one of those things. And I always feel like, you know, I don't want to be a tourist. You know, the people that go into these places just to go, like, sort of see people suffering or see people this, and you know, and I totally drives me crazy that. And I've been accused of that sometimes, where people go, "Oh, you're just a tourist taking pictures." I go, "No, I'm there to like help these people in a lot of ways." So I spent some time with her because I didn't want to just leave, you know, because I was already like basically her buddy. So we're standing there for a while. She started crying after her, you know, in her recovery. I guess she was in pain probably. And so I was there for a little while with her, and she was like talking, and I couldn't understand what she was saying. And so she like grabbed my hand and held hands for a little while, and then she like, I think her aunt came, and then, you know, kicked me out of the room. So, but you know, it's one of those things. I mean, it's not just, you know, you got to be a human being as much as you got to do. Ethiopia. Sorry, this is kind of bouncing around, but I try to keep it in geographically. You know, kids in the classroom. You know, it took me a while to sort of get them to relax towards me and like open up. I think there's a bit of a theme going on in my pictures, this sort of hand over the mouth thing. You'll see another one coming up. Beautiful people, you know, I mean, just amazing. I just love that sort of like, you know, in between, you know, there's something going on, and these kids, there's always some kids hanging around telling you something. Don't go over there. But they were just so cool looking. And, you know, and I was standing there for a while, and I was like, they're sort of like, I know they wanted me to photograph them, and I wasn't going to do it right away, because then they would just like scamper off. So I was like, hey, come over here, move over there, stand over there. And, you know, they got into it and they were like, you know. This girl, she totally not give, that was what she gave me. Attitude, which was fine. You know, I mean, it was perfect. I couldn't even like put, you know, the background. I mean, it was just like, you know, this took me like literally, it's one of those things where you're standing there and you're looking at her for a while and there's something else going on. I'm standing there looking at her for a while and, you know, and I'm talking to her and she's ignoring me. And, you know, so finally, you know, I raised my camera to take a picture of her and she let me do it. You know, I thought she was just going to like, just totally like run off. So, you know, I wasn't sure. This is one of those things where I thought the camera was going to ruin the moment. And there are times I swear to God, I don't take a picture because I don't want to, I'm like, there's such a great thing going on that I know I'm not going to capture it if I wanted to, so. These guys selling goats, and it was like in one of the big goat kind of, animal farm. And one of the things I've been trying to do in my pictures recently is to try to show more context. So like more things going on in the backgrounds, things that are sharper, you know, I kind of varied up. I'm still trying to figure out sometimes, you know, how I like to see things.
Do you ever show anybody the images on the back of your camera? And what are some of the reactions?
You know, regular people, yeah, I have no problem showing people the cameras. You know, when I'm working professionally, I don't do that. You know, I usually don't do that because that makes things complicated. People will start getting like, one of the things I've noticed when you try to manipulate people too much, they sort of harden up even more. You know what I'm saying? So you got to let people go through their process. If people start looking in the camera, the first thing, I swear to God, if I had a nickel every time somebody tells me, oh, terrible, this is terrible, you know. So I usually don't. I avoid showing people the pictures in the back of the camera, you know. But this guy, oh, he loves it. Are you kidding me? This is like freaking rocket science for them. It's like amazing, you know. And in fact, I make little prints for people when I'm like traveling. So. You have a question?
Yes, you mentioned earlier how you sometimes compose images with covers in mind. Mm-hmm. Does this mean you always collect model releases?
Yeah, I try. When you're working with NGOs, that's not a problem, you know, but with commercial use is where the issues are, you know, like for example, you know, big pharma, you need to have releases. I mean, it's like a real serious issue. I actually just recently got into a little bit of trouble with that because I didn't have releases for something that they wanted to use. But then again, that's not my job sometimes. You know, they had somebody there that's their job. So, you know, but yes, releases, if you can get them, are great, but you can't get releases from these guys. First of all, you probably can't read, you know, and then it's the language you probably, I mean, you have to have, you know, it's just, it's not going to happen. I mean, you could try, but the minute you show a piece of paper to somebody, they're like, what's this? Why are you doing this? It's like, you know what I'm saying? So you got to sort of, I mean, all these work, a lot of this stuff I do is for myself in some way, or it's for like an NGO, or it's, you know, social media. I mean, it's a really big gray area these days, all of that. So, I mean, my feeling is this, if you're not selling something with it, it's okay. Within reason. You know, billboards, that's going to be a problem. So yes, covers. Covers, you know, everybody does publications. There's still some people that actually make publications. They print things, you know. So, you know, it's like I was in, this is Sierra Leone. Beautiful place, unfortunately quite tragic these days because of the whole Ebola thing. But maternal health, I do a lot of like maternal health stories. So this is women waiting to get their children checked up. Just, you know, just colors, the people are beautiful. I mean, it's just, you know, he's quite healthy, isn't he? You know? And, you know, people are genuinely very happy to sort of like interact with you and stuff, you know? Particularly in Africa, the women rule there in a lot of ways. They're so open, it's like unbelievable, you know? Guys, on the other hand, not so friendly. This was like there was some sort of a soccer match going on, and they were like doing like a witch, pretending she was a witch and throwing bad witchcraft at the other guy. And you look at the Barbie, the hair thing, and it's like there was like a bird hanging around her neck, which I couldn't see, had it tied by the legs, and I mean, it was just so much going on. And it's one of those things. If you're not close, you got to get close to get pictures like that. You know, who said that? Was it? I can't remember what photographer, Capra, right. You know, got to get close, you know? Same thing, you know. I mean, I'm there just, you know, trying to just like paint with the camera to a certain degree, you know? Beautiful smile. See, this is a very shallow depth of field. So you notice some of the pictures are a little more sharper in the depth of field, you know? Making friends, always make friends with everybody. And, you know, Instagram is a big part of what I do. You know, it's important social media is huge. And you got to, as a photographer, Instagram is like fabulous for that, you know? There was a time, I must admit, that I was sort of dubious about it. Because, you know, it's like amateur hour and blah, 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 and this and that. I have since changed my mind, you know. So, and it's a great way to reach out to people, I mean, and really show what you do and how you do it and, you know, that kind of sort of thing. So there's just some curtains. And I don't know, you know, a lot of times this kind of thing where you just, oh, that looks nice, and just, you know. Same thing with this. I'm just standing over her. Baby sleeping. So, you know, it's like I was standing there and I'm like, you know, talking to these guys, or at least trying to talk. There was one guy I was talking to here, and he was just being, you know, very unfriendly. And, you know, I want to show a little bit more of just sort of like, you know, people I want to interact with people, and I want my pictures to show that. Same thing, you know, healthcare, you know, this woman's waiting for surgery. And, you know, this is a tough picture to do because in a lot of ways, how do you show something like this where it doesn't look tragic? You know, the place is like pretty horrifying, and the hospital itself, you know, and the smells like incredibly overpowering. But, you know, I was talking to her a little bit. She spoke a little bit English. We were chatting a little bit about this and that, and she was there for her surgery. Same surgery as the girl had. She was pregnant, had a stillborn. I mean, this girl's what, 14? You know, she's standing there looking at you. A lot of times I was waiting for the moment before he wasn't doing something. These are like fistula survivors, or I guess you would call them, and she was like showing me her farm and her garden, and she's very proud of the you know, what she's done. Another cover try. He was not happy camper. I asked him about his wheel. I asked what he played with. I get invited to dinner a lot, or lunch. And this is the cooking hut. And they have cooking huts. And I wanted to go in and see what they were making. They wouldn't let me in. No men allowed. You know? So, you know, but it's just amazing, just the you know, the bubble, you know, how bubbly people are sometimes, you know? And yeah, it's like something going on in the background, you know, but it's like, it's just, you know, you're trying to find like those little silver linings in everything, you know? Instagram picture, I just love their feet. So of course, they were standing there doing their thing, and the minute I took the big camera up, they started, no, stay right there, you know? She wanted to give me a ride on her bicycle, but I took a picture instead. So I'm walking by her in this little field, and she goes, you hear this little voice, bicycle ride? Like out of, like, you know, where is that coming from? And you look over here, and there's this girl with this bike that's huge and homemade. You know? It looks like it probably weighs like 100 pounds. And I bet you she can do it. She was really strong. Yes, I love this picture. This is just, you know, maybe I'm just emotionally attached to it. You know, it's one of those things, photographers, you get emotionally attached to pictures, you know, that somehow you had a great moment or something happened, and you know, I just loved her hair. And, you know, we're standing there talking for a while, and I said, you know, I love your hair. You know, I really do. And I'm trying to figure out, and, you know, she's very shy. So it's like, you know, this much attention, and I'm a New Yorker, so I can be a little intense. So so I got to always make sure that I kind of dial my enthusiasm down a little bit to keep it, you know, sort of like in par with what Because again, I just want to take a picture, you know, and I want to have that moment with her. And also, I'm a big believer in that she should have a positive experience with me too, you know. I don't want it to feel like I'm just there, just sort of like to take away something from them. So he wanted to take a picture of me. And then of course everybody gets on the act. And this was a job where I'm supposed to be there doing something else, and you're always waiting for something to happen. And these are the pictures I get on periphery to the actual work. And this one was great. I mean, I was with these horsemen for a while, and they were going to do a procession. And they're, you know, and I'm like, okay, when this starts, I know I got to be in the right place, or I'm going to just not get a great picture, because it's just going to be a big mob scene. So I'm like, you know, I'm thinking, what am I going to do? Should I stand over here? Should I stand over there? You know, I'm waiting for it. You're waiting. You're talking to the guys, and of course, all of a sudden they start getting their horses and they're taking off. Holy crap! And you're not even like in the right spot. So I'm running to get to where to get in front of them, you know, and of course they're all laughing at me. You know, look at the photographer run, and you know, but I got this, you know, and I really wanted this sort of like Napoleon-ish kind of photo, you know. Yeah, the projector doesn't do justice to it. I'm sorry. iPhone. Didn't have my camera with me. Best camera to have is the one you have with you. This is Sierra Leone. They were like practicing their gymnastics. Now we're in India. So, you know, I'm always sort of taxi rides, out the window. Love that stuff. This bridge is fantastic. The Skylink, which you need because the traffic's horrible. So yes, this is a fish I was referring to, which is in the promotional thing. I was fair photograph women that do with gestational diabetes, you know, which means that when they get diabetes when they get pregnant. And I was spending a day in Punjab. You know, this is in her front yard where she has like goats who kept eating my camera strap, and there's like a buffaloes back there, and she's pretty, and she's like effusive, but she was the first person I saw like that whole day. I spent the whole day just to get back to that thing of you're trying to find that perfect picture. And I was being taken around to all these different women and all these different, and it's just, they're like too old, and they weren't very friendly, or they were dressed kind of drab, and you know, I'm trying to find that perfect photo. And then I see her in her pink sari. Oh my God. You know, and I have my 15 minutes, and it starts counting down the minute they walk in, because you know that in 15 minutes, and after that, they're going to kick you out of the house. And she literally kicked me out of her house practically, because first of all, she couldn't look at me and smile at the same time. So that was kind of an issue going on there. But you know, I spent about 10 minutes before I even took pictures of her, just sort of asking about her family and her cow and what she's doing. And then as I'm doing that, I'm thinking about where I'm going to photograph there, you know, sort of keeping in mind the light and everything, and how much I can push to photograph her. And you know, we're photographers. We want to do, ooh, let's do one here, let's do one there, let's do one over here, let's do, you know. So of course, after like the third iteration of that, no more. So, but this wasn't a picture I used for the client. I actually have one where she's not covered. But I just love this picture. It just sort of shows so much about, you know, like what I do.
William, I have a question for you about, I mean, you have all this experience. You've traveled everywhere, 5 continents, numerous times. But what was the first job that you got in this line of work? How'd you get started?
Well, yeah, to get back to my background a little bit, I apprenticed, like, you know, photographers from my generation. I don't know, maybe that's out of style these days, but I worked for other photographers. And, you know, I worked for a travel guy and a fashion guy. We did a lot of traveling in the years, and that's how I learned how to travel. I mean, traveling is an actual skill. You have to, you know, it's something that you don't just pick up. You just don't walk into it and do it. But that Afghanistan job was really the job that really made me go into this line of work, you know, much more so. I mean, I've always traveled, but now it's just much worse. I mean, I travel probably half the year, much to my wife's, you know, consultation, who's here, right here, right? So, you know, but you know, it's one of those things. I mean, 90% of my work is not in New York. It might be even more, 95%. not even in the United States. So I've been somehow been able to get a niche of this kind of work that, you know, I don't know. Did I get it by accident? Karma? I worked at it? Risk? You know, there's so many angles you can look at something. I feel it's me, my perseverance. But this is one of my favorite shots. And in this job, I spent a lot of time stepping in cow poop. It was terrible. So this is the thing with these kids. This was great. They're passing by in the bus, and they're waiting at the turn. And one of them starts talking to me. We start talking. And then I go, hey, can I take a picture of you guys? And then he was just him. And at one point, he pops in, and I go, oh, he's not going to do it. Then the other kids pop out, because he was telling the other kids, oh, stick your head out, somebody take a picture. So, I mean, I spent maybe, you know, 30 seconds, a minute, you know, and then the bus left, you know, and it's just, so, and it's just an amazing picture in so many ways that way, that it's just like serendipitous, but at the same time there was some control going on. This is great. The colors, India is just amazing, you know. I mean, I spent a week in Punjab and just in this trip, and it was driving me crazy because I was getting really tired of the Indian food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But you know, you see this and just the people and just, you know. This is walking around in Mumbai. And this little kid, you know, I'm walking by, you know, I'm a New Yorker, so you're kind of programmed to like ignore or like not see things, you know. And I hear the drum going, and I see he's doing his thing in front of me, and I'm like, you know, and I'm like, you know, and then I start paying attention. I go, well, that's pretty cool, you know. So he was doing Michael Jackson. And if you look at the tassel on his head, he was spinning it, and you know, and it was so hot over there, unbelievable. I mean, he's like doing that all day, and he's like dirty. So I had to give him some money, and it was just, you know, he worked for it. He earned it for sure. Yeah. So. But this was with a pocket camera, you know, point and shoot. So this is a job I had in India, and I was supposed to illustrate, you know, milk collection. Oh, we're doing this thing, people collecting milk, go take pictures of that. Okay. So what do you do about that? And then, of course, you know, then I get the sort of talking to by the designers, and the designers want everything sort of like, oh, can you make sure there's a lot of space everywhere? It's like, that ruins the pictures, man. You know, then you just have these little things with just space around it. So it's constant, like art and commerce thing is always a constant battle, you know, trying to give the clients what they want, you know, but at the same time, you know, I don't say integrity because it's like, kind of a bullshit word in a lot of ways. It's in business, but it's just more about making sure you're doing something that's right. You know what I'm saying? So he was great. He was an awesome guy. He was actually getting some milk, bringing milk to the thing. And that's kind of how he illustrated it. Because the other thing was just people pouring milk into a vat. That's not going to be exciting. Or doesn't have that people thing. You know, any photos with people tend to have much tighter connection with people when anybody who's looking at it from the viewer's perspective than anything else. Same thing here. Guy's a barber. His family, his father's a barber. His grandfather's a barber. I was telling a story about how he was like getting out of being a barber. See, these kids weren't crying. You know, it helps to get down to people's level, the kids' level, and you know, you're not looking down on people. I find that to be like, doesn't give people dignity, you know. And these guys, they were just awesome. They're like freaking supermodels. I was having them walk up and down the road, back and forth a bunch of times. You know, they love being photographed. You know, got a beard. Look at that turban. It's amazing. You know. So my job, in a lot of ways, the way I see it, is to sort of show that other people live in a lot of ways that we do. You know what I'm saying? I think there's always this big misconception when you, like in the emerging world, that, oh, people are poor and they don't have like a family life, and you know what I'm saying? And these guys, this is just like one of the things I try to show. It's like sort of like, yeah, we're like everybody else too, you know? Plus those Punjabi men, good-looking guys. More tea, do a lot of tea. Same thing, little yard in the front, buffalo and stuff. See, so this is the first picture where I spent drinking the tea with him. That's the picture I wanted. And that's his father. Looks like Sean Connery a little bit, doesn't he? And he put on his good turban for me because he had a work turban on. So wait. So, you know, it's really funny. It's like photography. This type of photography is as much taking pictures as it is, you know, interactive skills with people. You know, just sort of being personable. You know, seizing the moment when you have it. You know, I mean, I look at my pictures, sometimes I look at them right after, and I always think about what I didn't do, why I didn't do it, or should have moved this way, or should have that way. I usually need a little more distance after I go, oh, that's a good picture. You know, I don't remember like the immediate issues. Woman walking down the road, on the grass, more milk. Showing women, empowering women, showing them doing business and stuff. So as much as what I do is, as much as it feels like it's sort of like, you know, conceptual or abstract, it's really about telling stories about particular things. And just stuff you see, just in, you know. When you're sitting in a cab for hours on end because the traffic's so bad in Mumbai. This was part of the thing. I made them go back and forth. The sun was perfect. It's like, oh my God, let's go out and do this. Newborn, well, not newborn. She was fairly new. She was late, so she was still in the hospital. Same thing, happy family. They have a room, their house is like the size of like, I think 10 feet square. So tiny. Kite flying. I spent a day and a half looking for kite flying. I got this one kit and I saw it like in the distance. And you're driving around, oh, wait, it's over there, it's over there. And we're trying to find the kite. You know, it's more about sort of lifestyle, you know. This kid didn't want to be photographed, Mohammed. That's his mother. He just ran off. Instagram. Camels pulling like I think, hay. These camels are big too. This is, you know, getting some sugarcane juice at the side of the road. This woman was amazing the way she got the bull to move. She's like elbow it, and it'd go around in a circle, and she would talk to it, and she would duck under the thing, and she would elbow it some more. I asked the kid what was under his turban. He took it off and showed me. little Bob Marley-ish. So it's important to make the connection with people. I'm not just there to record something. I'm there to connect with people and make children cry. I love the contrast of things. You know, if you look at the pictures like Lee Jeans and the mosques and the towers. In Brazil, this is a little different. I was trying to be a little more commercially oriented on these pictures, just a little bit more space, a little more, how should we say, contrived. I went and found models. This was not like an NGO thing at all. So it's all about healthy living, healthy lifestyle. And this is going to the favelas, which are very poor areas. Slightly dangerous. Actually, a lot dangerous. There was one guy that I had to go and ask for permission from the local toughs, and they were toughs, all drunk or high at the same time, and I'm like, oof, okay. Philippines. Always be ready to take a picture. Anything that's like interesting movement. This baby was just born. The placenta's still there. I was in the room. It was in a tent. They were doing a tent in a building after the typhoon. And because the tents were clean, they could keep the tents clean. And I'm in there, and the woman's like literally in labor. And I'm about to walk out because, you know, it's kind of a personal thing, you know. No, stay. I've seen more babies born, I think, than most people do, you know. So, and I wanted to just show it. I didn't want to show it dirty. I wanted to show it a little different, you know. And this was after the typhoon. This is like 6 months later. These ships got pushed ashore. There people already built their huts underneath, living there, like nothing's going on. Feels like something out of like some crazy, like, you know, dystopian, you know, futuristic society. One of the things I do is also, you know, raise funds. I did some trekking to Mount Everest, the first base camp, and I raised some funds to an orphanage. So besides doing photography, I also try to do good in other ways. These are some of the orphans doing the hokey pokey in the morning. It's funny. That's like the thing to do there is you go there and taking the kids to school. It's actually quite an experience. This is on the way up to the trek. This is at like 12,000 feet, Namche Bazaar. Also spectacular, kind of like, and if you look right here, there's all these little people walking right over there. I passed through this area at one point. It was full of snow. The other time it wasn't. It's just amazing. I mean, it's really just an amazing place. Sherpa language, stupa. These are like funeral tablets for people that have passed away. iPhone pictures, every single one of these, by the way. I rebelled. Wasn't going to bring a camera. How crazy is that? I had one, but I didn't actually take it out of my bag. I was on vacation, sort of. So this is something a little more, you know, like it's stuff I do, something called social responsibility for the companies. And it's about things they do for like some of their older patients. These are women that have, I can't remember what it was, Parkinson's maybe, and they're doing exercises. This is in Hungary, Budapest, Florida. See, I do some things that are like domestic, believe it or not. And this is what it's important to make friends and to connect with people. You know, I was there for like a morning photographing these women, and they were like so afraid of me in the beginning. And then they were like, why are you here? So I have to explain what I'm doing. And then they're like, you should leave. Why? And they go, oh, because the smell. I go, what smell? And it smelled like urine because they're all having continence problems. So they're all there for their surgery. So I go, no, it doesn't smell bad in here, you know? So I spent time and actually was like translating a Spanish soap opera for them on TV for a while. I get chickens. That's an honorary chicken I got from these women. They're a cooperative. Best way to do selfies, give the camera to somebody else and you tell them, keep taking pictures until they tell you to stop. And then I get the women to do stuff, you know. This is my guy. More tea. Most people really want to have their picture taken. It's true. Except the Russians. Thank you so much for, you know. Anybody have any questions at all about, you know, before we head on out of here?
Oh, wait, we're going to pass the microphone. It doesn't amplify, but it helps with the video.
Hello. You kind of mentioned bits and pieces here and there, but I just wanted to know if you had any like specific stories about how your race or your gender kind of plays a part in your acceptance or maybe like safety or non-acceptance or something.
You know, being a man and traveling to these places is definitely an advantage. You know, some of these places are pretty rough, you know, especially not rough, but, you know, women don't have the same rights. but then it can work against me. It's like, so when I'm photographing women and these sort of, I don't know, it's kind of funny because people ask me like, what do you do to these women that's like, you know, you should hear the stories they tell me. They're like, because I'm doing video now a little bit more, and they'll come and they'll tell me their tragedies, and we're holding hands, and they're telling me these stories. So it's like, it's quite amazing that people are open up. And so that kind of works, being a man can work as a disadvantage, but I don't really see it, to be honest. I mean, I think that I pretty have access to most anybody. Being multicultural, huge advantage. You know, you speak another language, that's another advantage. You also have just a better understanding of how other people live, I think. And I think that's a huge, huge advantage. More than anything else, you know, is that I'm able to go any place and sort of be a brother in a lot of ways, you know? Anyone else? Going once, going twice. No? Well, thank you very much.